I usually let people introduce themselves.
All right. So is that what you want us to do?
Yeah.
All right, Nick, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So my name is Nick Del Medico, Nick for short. Where do we start? So I grew up
Your
in Woodbridge.
pronouns probably
No,
would be
no.
next.
Told you.
That's all right. Go ahead. Sorry.
My pronouns are him, he.
Go ahead.
No, I grew up in Woodbridge.
Just gonna mute your mic.
I grew up in Woodbridge. Went to Holy Cross Catholic Academy.
I went to Persani.
Oh, so again, we're butting heads, you and I. I'm joking.
He's blinked 4 times. He's been here 8 minutes.
So I went to Holy Cross. I grew up playing soccer.
Introduction, not a bio.
Well, we have time to talk.
Okay. All right.
How much older is he than you?
He's 12 or 13 years old.
12. Am I 11? 12? And I look good for my age, right?
Yeah.
We'll explain how we met in a little bit.
You guys related?
No.
Oh.
No.
What did you say?
Do we look related?
Guys don't look that different.
Yeah. No, that's true. We could pass. That's racist. We could pass for
Yeah,
cousins.
a lot of Italian people.
One of the pizzas is gluten free.
I just ate.
That's fine.
I had
I apologize if it doesn't get eaten though, because I hate food going to waste. Because
Yeah.
there's people being tea.
Well,
maybe a slice each, Greg.
Yeah.
you don't have to. I mean, I didn't want to create. I didn't think the pizzas would be the most controversial.
With us, pizzas
it's
and
not
sugar filled.
What's with you and sugar? The first day at CCNM, my mom made me a burger for lunch.
Okay.
I looked at me like I didn't belong.
Really? Eh? Well, perhaps 2 reasons I could think of. One, perhaps the carbs. They looked at your burger and said, "Oh my God, you're having white carbs." I assume it was white. It was a white.
Yeah, it was right.
Right. That, or either perhaps a lot of students at CCNM are more vegan centric. I'm not sure, because it might be a more progressive school. And I know a lot of progressives.
That's an interesting statement that
Assumption.
being a vegan is
Yeah.
progressive.
I associate that. I associate progressivism. I mean, with. Let me see. Yeah,
He gives an older brother vibe.
Yeah. He watches out for me, because
I gotta watch out for this guy.
I could be naive sometimes.
Mhm.
Because I grew up like I said, I grew up in Woodbridge,
Mhm.
and we were
The
very
bubble?
sorry.
Yeah.
The bubble.
The bubble. That's right. I gotta take this off. I can't hear myself.
You can't hear yourself.
No,
It's
it
okay.
sounds muffled.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I grew up in a bubble. I grew up very privileged, just like many of my peers growing up in Woodbridge, because we were lucky to grow up in Woodbridge. Like we didn't have to face many challenges. You know what I mean? Like our parents made good money. We went to good schools. Everyone's essentially one race. No kind of whatever. It's true. Like I grew up with elementary school, like 99% Italian. High school, 99% Italian. It's only when I started at York University when I'm like, okay, different cultures definitely do exist.
We went to the 88%.
Yeah, no. It was definitely interesting, and I liked it because it exposed me to the real world. So I feel personally that essentially before I started university, I barely had real world experience. Perhaps you could say the only real world experience growing up I had was going to Italy every summer, like by myself, which was great, and it gave me a lot of life lessons and great experiences on how to navigate the world. But other than that, Greg can tell you, I'm
Yeah, he's in a bubble.
a good old boy.
Like, he got a ride here.
No, yeah, I got it right here.
Yeah.
But see, he condemns me for not having a car at my age, in my status.
How old are you?
I'm 24. What?
Sorry. Me.
No, me. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I thought he was talking to me. I apologize.
I'm 24.
We haven't gotten to your introduction.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
And we're barely done my introduction.
Oh yeah, this is long-winded.
This
It's
is
very dull.
If this is the Oscars, we already finished the
Yeah.
soundtrack.
You've been
Okay,
parted off.
we'll just stop with the hold off on the navigation, because that's the last word I remember you saying.
Right.
But, my friend here.
Yeah, my name is Greg Longo, and I'm not going to give you a long-winded introduction. Health and fitness enthusiast, former professional wrestler, current nutritionist, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to speak with you.
I saw that you focus on kids nutrition.
That is
special interest?
that's more of like a passion I have, a reason. So growing up the way I grew up, I think there's plenty of people out there who don't have mentors or people that they can kind of go to when they have questions that they need answered. So even if from a financial standpoint, they're not the ones providing, the money, I just feel overly passionate about the state of children's health right now, and I think it's in a very bad place.
What would be one of the main concerns you have?
Obesity.
Yeah.
With children.
How do you think that is?
Oh, because they are being kind of conditioned and groomed to stay home, sit at home. Hereditary. That's the word I always fumble. Hereditary.
Sedentary.
Sedentary. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just not as active. When you have Netflix and Fortnite and Uber Eats
And lazy parents.
and it comes down to parents. I'm trying not to like Nick thinks I'm the one that always goes off the rails, but essentially, yeah, it's the parents. It's without a doubt the parents' fault for this.
There's a plethora of stimuli for children that definitely exacerbates the issue of obesity among many issues that trouble children. But like I said, there could be a plethora, but it's up to the parents to properly parent their kids and make sure that that plethora of stimuli is experienced to them in a good way, in a limited context that would benefit their upbringing and not be deleterious. Like Greg was saying, obesity is a huge issue right now in children. Childhood obesity is on the rise, and it's sad.
Why do you think it's parents' fault, or partly their fault?
Has to be it's 100% their fault, especially if you're talking about a young child. Who makes the food? Who buys the food?
Well, okay, yeah. So I mean, part of the things that I'm not argumentative. I'm not trying to be an argumenter or whatever.
No.
But you mentioned like Netflix and Fortnite. So those are things a kid chooses.
Right.
They can say, I don't play in my backyard. I just kick the ball around.
Mm-hmm.
That's activity.
Right. Okay, so...
But parents could definitely influence or literally
I'm
dictate.
sure parents say, why don't you guys go play outside? And they're like...
Okay, so from a young age, right? So let's just say the way that constructs are developed. So let's just go to school, for example. Okay, so children are sitting in a classroom and there's an authority figure, which is the teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a household, I guess to compare, the parent is obviously the authority figure. So just like in school, you're told when it's time for recess.
Mm-hmm.
So you might need the parents to be like, hey, it's time to get outside. It's time to get off that. When children are given something that's stimulant, right, or stimulizing, it might be hard for them to disconnect. And the science is there. There's plenty of people now speaking out about the dangers of, especially social media, which is a different topic, even though it's kind of in the same realm. You're gonna have to push those kids, and parents are either too self-consumed. The generation is still very much also they're personally involved with their social media as opposed to their children. So I'm kind of a hard ass in that sense that I put it on the parents. Like if the child is 13, 14, okay, some decisions can be made, right? But
So would you reach out to the parents?
100%, yeah, absolutely.
Because you mentioned like you kind of have a focus or a passion for the kids.
I want to help the children. They're just in the way, right?
Who's in the way?
The parent.
The parent.
Like
But the parent is
you
sort of
gotta
like the
educate the
source
parent.
of the solution, and you're suggesting.
Yeah. Oh, they're going to play a pivotal role in it, right? They have to be. But it's also, you got to look at it from a marketing perspective, right? So if I'm just talking to the general public, mostly it's going to be adults or young adults that are going to be interested in this. But when I talk to the children, obviously I'm going to need parental consent. Parents are going to need to be involved. It's just kind of like how you market that.
Well, I mean, I think as I'm listening to you, like you have something there where maybe this is marketed towards the schools in terms of like actually having like gym and health. Actually have a constructive way to look at body morphology, body composition in a way that's not like we don't want Billy to be have his confidence hurt, so we're not going to say he's overweight. But it's like, okay, no, maybe Billy is overweight because we do have ways to measure that.
Yeah.
And is it how do you introduce that where we have a society that no one is a loser and everyone's a winner, but everyone needs support, but we're afraid to offer it because we don't want to stigmatize.
I have a smirk on my face because it's 2021 and being a giant is applauded as like the pillar of health, and that's wrong. It starts there. The fact that Hollywood and the way it's I get it, being body positive. You can love yourself, but let's stop pretending that being 400 pounds at 5 feet tall is like a good idea. We have to, in terms of. But back to you saying this is like a school problem, but you have to also understand like how handcuffed, especially in Canada, people are, boards are, everything. So
I think we have to find a way that we're addressing the elephant in the room, and the elephant.
It's the elephants that are in the room.
Well, but the elephant's not getting shot. Right?
Yeah.
And is the elephant reference to an overweight kid?
Yeah, a big person, child or adult.
And you want to help them, but you're giving them shots. You
No,
just
hey,
help
do
them
you know?
elephants.
I'm a very Nick knows I have a big thing. Honesty
Yeah.
over. Oh, sorry. I didn't pick up on that. I value honesty over kindness. Okay, yeah, and I appreciate your humor because that just went right by me.
That's good stuff.
And it's like,
yeah, yeah. Honesty means more to me, and I think we've coddled society to a point of like almost no return. And it's not about being rude, and it comes down to intent. And the more I see articles being written about like intent not being important, intent is everything. Mm-hmm. Just like in today's climate, with like blurring the lines with obedience and being a good person. Being obedient does not make you a good person. You know what I mean? So,
well, it depends on who you're being obedient to, and who measures the obedience. Because you can be obedient to your parents.
And a piece of garbage.
If your parents are instructing you in what most people say is a correct way,
mm-hmm.
and you're listening and you're being obedient, you're being good.
Yeah.
You get rewarded.
Right, but you can almost see where that early
mm-hmm.
that starts.
Yeah.
Right, but at the same time, you could still be a pedophile and be compliant. You could be obedient, but you can still be a piece of garbage.
So that's the nature of the relationship, and if it's bad, like destructive versus like so there is a moral compass in everything,
but people are lacking that. I mean, it may sound like a broad stroke of what I'm saying, but it's not. Like I'm being direct in the sense of today what we are seeing with with COVID and all that. Like being obedient does not equate being a good person. That's all I mean, like flat out.
So he's saying that, I think, specifically more in the context of today's socio-political issues surrounding COVID.
Oh, that.
Right. So I'll expand a little bit on what he means by obedience does not equate being a good person, being a moral person. Because we see that a lot of the mandates and norms that are being pushed by our government and media and society nowadays is not ethical. So it doesn't mean that just because you follow them,
so that's a matter of opinion.
Perhaps, but is ethics something that is objective or subjective?
That's also a matter of opinion.
But then we can do that all day.
That's right. That's the problem with.
But nuance, right? Dialogue. Like these are the things that are important, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hard to have that. But I feel like we jumped from fat kids in school to COVID, so I want to try and get on track.
I mean, if you're going to blame someone, I'd blame them, right?
What do you mean, the fat kids?
I'm with you, the fat kids.
What are you talking about?
No, I don't know. So you made a statement that social obedience doesn't make you a good person.
No.
Okay, but that's because you feel a certain way. Because the people who are being obedient, they don't think of it as obedience.
It doesn't mean you can't be obedient and a good person. I'm just saying today people equate compliance and obedience with being good, and they're very arrogant about that.
Okay, so that's an interesting point, that the people who are compliant have maybe an animosity or an opinion of those who are not conforming, that they are rebels, they are part of the problem.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not necessarily about right or wrong, it's just what it is.
And then that comes down to choice.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about choice?
It's a pivot. It's extremely important choice. What do you mean?
Well, okay. So if we say we live in a democracy, and by definition, that's really 51%.
Yeah.
So
it's a funny word.
So if 51% of people believe that a course of action is necessary, that gets somehow mapped onto the total population.
Yeah.
So do we live in a democracy?
I personally don't think so at the moment.
So what do we live in?
Currently,
you're going to say a word and it's not 100% accurate. But
yeah, because it's an extreme and it gets thrown around just like the word conspiracy theorists get thrown around. I'm not going to say we live in communism.
I think
we're just dipping towards an area that they're again blurring the line to what is and isn't.
I think what's going on now is
a segue, like a path.
Is a segue, but it definitely has authoritarian flares what's going on right now in Canada.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not a flare. It's completely authoritarian
Mhm.
because if you're like saying you cannot do something unless you do this,
Mhm.
Right. So, I often ask Greg this question because it really perplexes me. How come freedom, the notion of freedom to the highest extent of the definition of the word in Canada, it means something totally different from here and the U.S. Because right now, all of Canada is one way in
Mhm.
terms of how people live their lives. We go out, we have to wear a mask.
Mhm.
If we seem like we're drifting away from the narrative and we're kind of going contrary to the norm against the grain,
Mhm.
we're looked at oddly,
Mhm.
and that's at best. A lot of times we are castrated in public. Whereas,
Is that the word you want to?
oh yes, absolutely,
I
it's extreme.
I would have went with like chastised.
Yeah.
Perhaps
Public castrations.
Yeah.
They don't do those anymore.
they don't do those, but it's a metaphorical castration. Let's say
All
that.
right.
Versus in the U.S. right now, to my understanding, other than two places in the U.S. being New York City and Los Angeles, perhaps more of the California area, it's normal
The
living,
left.
right? It's true. I mean, listen, it's interesting to me.
Why is that?
It's interesting to me
Is it
how
because they're vegans?
no. Vegans are good people. A lot of them are. A lot of them aren't.
Yeah, just like
Nonetheless,
I mean, you see, that goes back to like, but does vegan, is that being progressive? Does that mean make you good or bad?
no. I no.
So then why
absolutely
do you
not.
hate them?
I don't hate them. What are you talking about?
Oh, everything, elephants and vegans.
No,
You know how much mail we're gonna get?
hate mail.
Hate mail?
Oh.
Oh, that
Probably.
like Greg
Just
said,
ignore it.
we live in 2021. People hate.
Yeah.
And people especially hate people who are against the narrative, against the norm, against what the media says is normal.
Right.
Which in Canada, our media, all of our media, is very left-leaning.
Well, why?
Why? In every sense of the word.
No, but why? Why do you think they are?
Well, because our government is it kind of fits the bill, right? They're
I have
that
no
way,
idea.
right?
I really don't.
Yeah, they're an extension.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
But-
But you know different.
what do you mean? Oh, wait, bias? Of course. Yeah. We're all biased.
No, I mean like, but you know, like whatever the media is saying, somehow you just know differently.
I think differently
I
Yeah.
think differently.
because I think outside the box, and I grew up to think like that.
Well,
I
outside
grew
of
up
the
to
box,
question-
what you're saying is I just don't automatically believe everything I'm told.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I grew up learning to question everything that I'm told.
How?
How? Because that's the nature of how I grew up for some reason. I don't. I honestly, I
So
don't
it's
know
a
why.
character trait.
Perhaps.
Would you say similar for you?
I grew up very odd, and my upbringing was very different than other people. I lost my mom to cancer when she was 38. I was like 11, just before I turned 11. My father and I did not get along. I bounced around house to house. I had no choice but to raise myself and learn the world real quick, which is why at times, I might, it's not to sound jaded, it's just when you have a traumatic event like that at that age, it just changes who you are as a person. So I've had to fend for myself since I was preteen. So it's different, but the one thing that I'm hearing, when Nick speaks, even some of the things you're saying that would be a great shift is we're 2 years into this pandemic. We're on this topic that I was hoping we weren't going to kind of live on, but I think it's important to start changing the tone of the conversation because you have an extreme side that is talking about eradicating a virus, which we know is impossible, and then you have another side that's saying, the complete opposite. I think we just need to. It's here, right? It's here to stay, and we need to learn how to pivot and adjust as humans and individuals because the tagline for a lot of things is we're in this together, right? But sadly, by people being heavily influenced from the media, we're very divided. So we need to figure out a way to talk about COVID without talking about COVID and what's next because there's people out there that have been able to adjust and pivot and still remain successful during COVID. And I'm not talking about rich, big corporations. I'm just talking about individuals on how they're dealing with COVID.
Yeah.
I've said this to Nick countless times. My favorite athlete is Floyd Mayweather. People say, well, yeah, he's undefeated. He's the best defensive boxer. I say, no. What I love about Floyd Mayweather is his ability to adapt and adjust. And I think if you can do that as a human being, you're going to go further in life. So we're in the nitty gritty, and now we're 2 years in, and everything's getting rehashed with the fourth wave and all that. So things are getting charged up again.
Fifth.
What's good though is I'm talking to more and more intelligent people, not necessarily educated, but intelligent, and they're finally starting to see the writing on the wall. So there's an opportunity now to just pivot, because where people like me and Nick may be categorized as extreme or like hateful, it's the opposite. Like it's all about like empathy, love, compassion. Like it's not the other things.
So it's funny because most people who have an opinion, they have an opinion because they actually care about people.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to have vastly contradictory opinions. And it's funny that there's a few things that you brought up, because everyone wants the same thing. Everyone wants to kind of go back to normal.
Just in a different way.
Do they?
And no one agrees.
That's a good point.
And why?
I don't think they do though. I don't think
I think
everybody wants
people
to
like
like
being
Okay,
told.
so everyone, I mean general public. I'm not talking about like politicians or whatever above that.
I do think there are some people, probably the vast minority, some people in the general public who don't necessarily wish to go back to the old normal. Perhaps because
But that's probably a minority.
Absolutely.
I
Who
mean,
knows,
like,
man? It's very hard to say. You got, they're printing money out of thin air for a while. That's kind of stopped. You have people getting used to working from home. I don't know if it's a minority
so
or
those
the
are bad
majority.
habits,
Yeah.
and it'll continue to be pervasive in our society if we lose sight of what like the human condition is meant to be. It's like, and it's meant to thrive, not to just sort of retreat to something that's comfortable.
But if you look at countries who operate in a very authoritative way, they are about kind of demoralizing their people.
Right. Yeah,
So
I
you have to
see
recognize
that.
that, right?
And that's coming from higher up.
Yes.
That's not coming from the citizen level.
No.
And I think what I wanted to bring up today was why there's such a contradiction amongst people, even within households. And
Not in mine.
yeah,
Sorry,
and to be honest, like, and that's a good point, because it does seem like every so often there's like a pocket, certain groups, certain families, certain people that associate, friend group. Sometimes friend groups split up, the haves and have-nots, the backs and the backs-nots. So what is it that is creating this division? Because there's division was happening before COVID.
Ego,
Okay.
and the fact that we've been locked in, and it's that news cycle in your face 24/7. I'm not saying I watch the news, but it's very easy for people to kind
They're
of
triggered.
and they're scared,
Yeah.
right? Fear. So imagine if you are perhaps a person who's not necessarily old, but just a little bit elderly, maybe not in the best of health. It's easy to grab those, and then it kind of spider webs up. It tells that friend, tells
Yes.
that. It's so that you're getting that fear porn 24/7. Like when I'm in the city, like I've moved up north now. I grew up in the city. When I go to the city now, I feel like the angst on my shoulder. Like I feel it weighing down
I
on
don't
me.
go south of Highway 7.
Yeah, no, I got to travel to Toronto often, but like I'm just saying, like you feel that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you feel that tension, that tenseness. Like where I'm up north, it's like I always tell people it kept me sane. If besides things being closed, you never even know it was COVID where I lived.
Yeah.
Like it was, it's just different.
I think to answer that question that you asked, why is there so much division between people?
They want to be right. People want to win.
Yes, absolutely. And like you said, ego. What's feeding that ego?
Fear.
For me, fear, for sure. But where's that fear coming from? For me, one of the biggest issues that's been driving this hysteria.
Don't do it, man.
What? Oh.
Did you hear that rap? Down? That's almost like a zipper coming down in the movie.
The sugar coming out. I hear it. It's like
right next to me.
for me, the biggest driver of the hysteria and the division that you're describing in our society now is effectively the mainstream media.
The divide is by design.
It absolutely is. The mainstream media influences so much of our culture, and because majority of people, the average person, I think, does watch and listen to the mainstream media, and it's kind of like whatever they say is the norm, and if you think otherwise,
deviate even a little.
if you deviate just a little bit, then something's got to be off with you, and you have to be either hateful.
Who's policing that for the individual?
Who's policing what?
Like what they're consuming?
Because a lot of people will hear something on the news and like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get a fifth shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, this is where they're starting to sign it.
Exactly.
See,
They're starting to
it's
question
taken
it, right?
4 or 5.
Every person has a different line.
Absolutely.
Some people have a very wide threshold of what they tolerate, and some people are like,
And I've said this for almost like a year to Nick, and again, I don't judge anybody whether you've taken a vaccine or you haven't. None of my business, nothing to discuss.
you are a little
But-
curious, aren't you?
No, I'm not. Honest to God,
I'll
I'm
tell
not.
you later.
You don't have to. It's not, to me. It's not going to change anything of how I view you. But since you interrupted, you kind of messed me up there. I'm a little high, like you kind of messed me up.
I think.
Messed me up there just a tad.
Want a drink?
No, thank you. I'm driving.
Juice.
Oh, do you know a water would be fine.
Yeah, water there.
No, I'm good. But it's fine. No.
have more.
Okay.
Are we paused now?
No, what's the matter with you?
It's
And
walking away.
you've never. So what? They don't need to know that, even though it's probably filmed.
It is filmed.
You've never done we've done podcasts.
You never
before.
filmed their podcasts.
Come on.
This is still going on.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
What's the matter with you?
This is
Greg and I used to do a podcast.
Oh, yeah, so-
a few years
So why
back.
did you stop?
Nick, he can't commit. He's got commitment issues. No, I'm kidding. Okay, I remember now. I said, there's got to be a line, whatever that line is, and I say that because, or else it won't stop. So whether it's 2, 3, 4, like whatever it is, you have to come to a point and look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, this is where I'm done. If people have still not done that, we're in a bad spot still, and we're going to be here for a while. Everyone has to have it. Like, that's it. I'm done. Most people, according to stats, have done what they were told to do. 2, and we're done. And even though our rights, our freedom story shouldn't even be like negotiated,
Mhm.
but an overwhelming majority of Canadians have done what they were instructed to do. And the other thing that's frustrating is, especially, people, like when it comes to Canadians, give us the benefit of the doubt. Don't treat us like children. So let's just say, even though we can go on and on about these numbers and how they come to these numbers and the testing, right now things are up. So maybe if me being a smart enough person, if I see numbers up, maybe I'm gonna carry myself differently. Maybe I won't attend that massive gathering that week. Like, don't dictate to me. I'm an adult. I'm a sensible adult. All the government is essentially doing is, we have failed you. We failed you so much that we need to treat you like children, since we failed you for so long. If anything, you should be, just like I always say this with my wife when it comes to like our children. She's like, oh, I don't know if I want them to go away and do this. You gotta let them be free. You're saying to yourself, you failed as a parent if you don't think they're capable to make the right decision. Yeah, they're gonna fail. Failure is the most important thing you can go through. They're gonna fail, but you have to let people be free to make decisions. And then they got to live with those consequences.
So someone would argue and say, well, what if your decisions infringe or hurt someone else?
That's one argument someone made that it was the first time someone said something that, okay, I can go with that one. Because usually it's a lot of, they're just spewing stuff from the TV. He said, okay, well, what about when they used to allow smoking in restaurants and then they closed that? It was a public health thing. And I'm like, that's a good point. And I'm happy about that.
Is it?
What?
Is it a public health thing?
No, that's what they said
I
when
know.
they cut smoking out in
In
public.
New Zealand, they're gonna
Yeah, they're
phase
banning
out
cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that. But see, okay,
So as a naturopathic student to be,
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, should you?
Okay, so there's two. There's two.
Huh?
Don't tell people what to do, but
There's
I'm
two
all for.
perspectives on that.
I say make the things that are bad for you more expensive and the healthier
Hold
things
on,
cheaper.
there's two ways to answer that question. One way is to go the route of saying, hey, well, you know what? The government, over the past 2 years, has been telling us that they're doing these things because they care about us and our health, and they want to protect us.
I would have lost my job.
That's so
You
benevolent.
failed this month.
That is so benevolent of them. So thank you. So from that perspective, I would say, yeah, banning cigarettes. That's amazing. That means that they're acting in a great way.
But
to
according
save
to
our-
you, they are.
Of course.
Okay, well that's.
Of course,
Don't take it away
I'm
from
getting,
you. You
I'm
don't take
getting,
nothing
I'm
away
getting
from
to the other
nobody.
perspective though. So from that perspective, yes, a good thing. But the other perspective, the freedom perspective, no, that's a horrible idea. Let people decide what they want to do to themselves. Because freedom.
So if someone says, well, I want to have the choice to hurt myself, should they be allowed?
That's a very deep-winded question. Should they be allowed?
What does deep-winded mean?
Deep-winded means that it's a complicated question, I
That's not
guess.
even a word.
See, next time you put your foot in your ass. Oh my goodness.
It's a complicated question.
I know.
Because
That's why he asked it.
Okay, I'm just saying.
I wasn't sure.
Don't be
So
speaking
should
your
you let people
gibberish.
hurt themselves?
You can't control that because.
Well, I mean,
you shouldn't
it's an
control
opinion,
people.
right? Like, so cigarettes.
What does that mean? Let them. What does that mean? Let them. Like, so if I'm watching right now, somebody, I'm gonna try and interject.
Right.
But if I'm not in this room,
Well, okay, so like, if someone's gonna jump off a cliff,
yeah, you're gonna.
and you save them, good on you. If someone is smoking a cigarette, and you have this thing like, oh, cigarettes kill people, I'm gonna smack it out of their hand.
No. I'm the one saying you shouldn't be taking nothing from nobody. This is Nick over here switching sides. I'm joking. I'm joking. I can see. Look, I can see where you're coming from, and you actually, the way you word questions, it's good. It's challenging, right? Because you flustered Nicholas there a little.
You flustered Nicholas.
Okay, but again, I personally don't think anything should be taken away. But I do think that the things that we know are a detriment to individuals, just make it more expensive. You know what I mean? Like, just tax it more. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, why? How can you go get like 2 burgers for $3? But like, if I gotta go get, fast food joint. But if I gotta, even though I don't usually like to buy food out, right? If it is something that is, I don't know, freshy, I don't know, whatever, because I don't do it often to even know what's out there. I'm spending $20. And I get it, and I understand from a business perspective and like the supply chain and everything that's involved in the quantity they're buying things. I get that, but I'm just trying to help Nick here because I don't think you should take the cigarettes away. But I think
I'm not saying that. But
sugar tax, like never mind meat taxes, sugar taxes, food taxes.
That's a great point it brings up. These meat taxes now. Have you heard about that? They're talking about this in the States to regulate meat consumption because climate change, because apparently cows contribute to climate change and red meat.
But that's been like debunked.
Of course, in our circles.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
In our circles, but mainstream media still perpetuates that red meat consumption contributes to global emissions, carbon emissions, when that's clearly wrong. What's it called when? Regenerative agriculture is one of the best things that we can do for this planet. Yeah. But the radicals on the other side of the political spectrum disagree, and it's because of ideology, and that's dangerous.
Is it because of ideology?
Absolutely.
Well, what else?
I think that there is like an overriding, there's a program in place. And these are all pieces.
Like an agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah. That's a part of it. I was going to say, we can look at this so many different ways. You can even go as far back to say this is like an attack on men, right? The way men are kind of demonized and categorized, right? It's like, that's at least how I take it when it comes to taking meat away. Like the nutrients and the food of our ancestors, like meat's like a big deal. Like I'm forever going to, eat meat, but I also do my best to ethically consume meat.
It's amazing that creeps into the psychology of like you have to justify that you
right.
Do you really have to?
I don't think I need to because I know what's in it and the nutrients and the what it provides.
So I mean, we have cultures that survive solely on like whatever they hunt.
Mm-hmm.
They shouldn't be eradicated,
no.
should they?
No.
I mean, it might be something to consider.
They need to find ways to justify the next crisis, right?
You see how that? Well, I mean, yes.
Right, so that's a way, and it's easy because you divide people again.
Sure.
Right.
But it's I would say it's even deeper than dividing people. I mean, it's division for elimination. Because if we can say, well, we need to survive and we need to sustain the planet.
Yes.
Well, then some people just think there's too many people.
Right. But there's also, and this is where, and I'm all like, I don't mind throwing on that tinfoil hat. You know what I mean?
But people, this is not tinfoil. This is publicly argued.
No, but what I mean is, a lot of people like to say things that are happening. A part of their agenda is to depopulate. At the rate that we're going, you're not going to need to do too many things. We're doing a pretty good job of that. Like we've already seen the reduction in sperm count.
Well, did we do that to ourselves?
Environmental. There's external factors as well, right?
I would argue that the environmental factors are not a factor
at all.
What do you mean by environmental factors exactly?
Environmental meaning like pollution.
You don't think that affects?
No, I'm thinking things like plastic in our food and things like that. Yeah,
that's probably.
I would probably say that it doesn't have a sufficient amount of an impact in comparison to other things that are being that have infiltrated society.
But
I would say the demasculinization of men
yes,
is the number one
priority.
sperm killer.
Yes,
Is that a
I
fact?
agree.
I would say.
I
I don't know if there's.
I agree with that. I've never. You know what? I love that. I think you're very true on that. But
I agree.
the point out what I was trying to say was, and I forgot again what I was trying to say. Every time you do such a good job, and then when you cut in, it's like,
Did I cut it?
no, it's okay because I do it too.
Yeah.
You're great. It's me.
I love the back and forth because you don't like it's not an echo chamber in here.
No,
And I think that is
it's just hot.
that's okay.
Yeah, I'm mining crypto.
Are you actually? Are you actually?
Don't get into this conversation.
Are you into crypto?
Recording.
No one's into crypto.
Yeah, that was at the crypto. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So
Are you on KuCoin?
I'm not on KuCoin.
You just admitted now what you're
I
doing.
use,
So.
well, whatever. I don't care.
Is that a secret?
It's not a secret, but like people in the crypto space like to keep it as private as like they don't like to like expose that.
Never mind crypto. Back to what we were saying. The depopulation thing. Now I got it. The tinfoil hat thing. People always bring that up. What I'm thinking, or not what I'm thinking, what we're seeing is there's going to be a drop off. In the next 10 to 20 years, we're going to cap off. Yeah, like we're going to cap at like 9 or 10 billion.
I actually read a study today from the Lancet.
We're not having 6 kids anymore, and is the government making things so difficult and expensive by a way to counter that? You know, maybe I don't know, but you're not seeing like those 5-6 children households anymore. So,
What happens if you have more than 2 kids? What do people say? You guys done?
Oh no,
I think 5 kids.
Yeah,
Sure, yeah. I love,
kids.
of course.
Until you
you're
have
a
one.
man.
No.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I want to spread my seed as much as I can.
No. Until you've had, you can't make that comment. With the demands of the world, unless you're a billionaire and you don't want to be full on with your children, like I always say, you have one project, 100%. You got 3 projects, it's 33% each focus.
For sure.
It's a different ballgame. Have one and then come talk to me about the other 4.
Yeah.
Guess you're not having any more.
I love it, but it's people.
So it's a money question.
Is money a question?
Like for kids, because other people have said that too.
Yeah,
people have said like, yeah, it doesn't make sense to have more than 2.
No. Well, money, it is a factor, but it's just also about like I said, like what the amount of time and effort you want to put in, and then you have to think about the strain on the relationship, right? You got to think about that friendship, that bond with your partner, right? Because those kids.
So would you suggest having more kids it would reduce your bond with?
No, I'm not suggesting that. What I'm saying is, I think if you are financially independent and in a place where you are kind of freer than we are here right now, have as many kids as possible. I personally think children are the antidote to the world's chaos. But at the same time, if you're not in a financial position, or you do find yourself in a relationship where things may be challenging at times, kids might just make things a little bit more challenging. So saying I want 5 and you have 0, that's like saying like I'm gonna run 100K, but I've never ran 1K. Like let's start at.
Well, usually you don't have 5 at a time. What? I can't say it?
No, I just know this water is good.
Why get so mad?
I'm not mad.
Yeah, come on, you walked in mad.
No, a lot of people assume that with
Craig
me.
wakes up mad.
No.
Hey,
No.
he's gonna hit you.
No.
He won't hit. Well, if he hits me, it's
He's
out
hit
of
you
love.
before, hasn't
Listen,
he?
I read people very well. I like you. So
Oh, that's nice. You remind me of someone I know.
is that good or bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. Of course it's good.
Okay.
When we're talking about having 5 kids, let's talk about people having a hard time having 1.
That's scary too.
That's the problem.
So obviously, I can't get into detail for confidentiality reasons, but I can tell you that what my wife does for a living and the people that she sees, it's a frequent conversation of how hard it is for them. Either they're trying or they're going through, assistance through medical procedures to make it happen, and that's scary. And I think all of that plays a part in. Again, people want to call me crazy. I think that comes down to our food, our water, external, all these things coming into play. I'm not going to say vaccines, but like all of this, because that's the hot button topic. I'm not saying it's that.
So I would add, all of the factors you mentioned can be overcome when the relationship is improved and the dynamic of the individuals, the husband, the wife, they actually know their role. Because that's not clearly defined anymore.
Yeah, it is in my household.
Because it's scary to say that. People I don't want to be pigeonholed. I don't want to be Like, you're not going to tell me that I have to do this X, Y, and Z. But that's like a two-way street. Like, there's things I have to do, and then there's things that I hope are done. And that's not me being dictatorial. That's like everyone having a job. You're a cog in the machine.
Right.
If a wheel wants to be the brakes, and it's like, well, you're a wheel. I mean,
Yeah.
you keep rolling.
Yeah.
So,
I know where you're going.
Yeah, and no, couples don't want to hear it. I mean, at least one of them doesn't want to hear it.
Well, I think that goes back to the person that you're going to choose to spend your life with. You better know them well.
It seeps in there. They have friends and they talk. It's true.
No, they got friends, but you know what?
If you have a strong enough partner that could balance and be like, hey, I know so and so, but that's not happening here.
Yeah, like that's kind of how it goes in my house.
That's good.
Yeah,
has to be.
And that's not an arrogant and BDE talk. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not just swanging things and saying things. Like, it's just, I think that throughout history, a strong society is based around strong males. And I think your
that's
house.
the whole thing of patriarchy, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Is that bad? That's a bad word now.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I okay. Matt, you're married.
Yeah.
And what's your role in the house? Are you?
They call me Dad.
They call you Dad. What does your wife call you?
Jason.
Not Daddy? No, I'm kidding. I'm trying my wallet.
It's a sign.
I know, right? Listen, buddy.
No, but we have.
You guys fight? You guys battle on certain things, or is it just a one-hitter quitter? What Jason says.
No.
No?
No, and then the relationship evolved as both of us, from dating back in school to now, you learn more about yourself and
Right.
what's how to express what you need and being on the same page. That evolved.
Yeah. Well, so what's great about like my relationship, with my wife. Obviously, you have to. I'm not trying to sound like I'm being funny. Like, obviously, there's a conversation. But what's great about her is she ultimately knows it's your decision. At the end of the day, we can go back and forth, but ultimately, Greg, it's your decision for this family in this household.
And why did she?
Because she feels comfortable and she knows my role and she knows her role.
You think innately she wants that?
Yeah.
That's a hard thing for some people to accept. That
For
idea.
others to accept,
Yeah.
not my wife. You can ask her yourself.
I got it. I believe you.
Nick knows her.
She's a saint.
Well, I
To
mean,
deal with him, she'd have to be a saint.
we're on a roll. It's like me interrupting him 4 times.
It is.
It's okay. We got on track. What? I'm hot. I'm in.
So are we insinuating here that the traditional male-female roles is a good thing, and we have to revisit that to re-explore or refine or redefine because again, this is very subjective, but I think society nowadays is in a catastrophic state. There is chaos everywhere.
Catastrophic. Castrations.
The way you said plethora a bunch of times.
Plethora, yeah, myriad. I'll say that too a few times.
None of these would give you points on Scrabble.
Talk like a human.
But the world is in chaos.
What? I'm joking, man. Don't go off of his reactions. He's having fun with us. Go ahead.
I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, he's talking.
I'm glad.
Okay, so you're making a bunch of statements about like, hey, let's just get back to traditional stuff.
I'm asking the question.
Yeah, but the question is more powerful than the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
Because you just say it, now it's in everyone's head.
Mm-hmm.
Now everyone's thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think?
Well, I think that again, progressivism puts a ugly face on the traditional male-female roles. I think the man has specific roles that men traditionally excel at, and the same can be said for women. And I don't think either role is less important than the other.
Yeah.
I think there's a reason why males and females have come together and created civilization as we know it today. The nuclear family is a great thing. It's what created the greatest civilizations that ever existed on Earth. So I think that we have to definitely put that back on the pedestal where it belongs, because that's a great thing.
Asking for a lot, 2021, Nick.
It's true. I'm sorry.
Whose fault is it?
Is what? Like, what is
The breakdown of
Demonization of the nuclear family. Is that what the
breakdown of the family?
breakdown of the? Who's fault is it?
Hollywood, Teen Mom back in the day. Like the thing is, it's hard to identify when you're in these things.
I was going to aim for something a little bit more ground level. Like, blame the guy.
What do you mean blame the? Oh, you mean for not being a man? Well, yeah, well,
That's-
a lot of men are neutered these
Absolutely.
days.
Sometimes they neuter themselves.
100%.
I absolutely agree with that.
100%.
Okay, what's an example of how a man would neuter himself?
How would a man neuter himself? Metaphorically, of course. When progressive women shame men for mansplaining, for manspreading, for being toxically masculine.
I don't know, men's, but like this is.
You never heard of that stuff before?
Men's, what is it?
Making excuses or explaining.
No,
why
you opened your legs when you said it.
Manspreading.
like,
So like if I physically,
You're
it's
being-
like a microaggression.
You're being obnoxious.
Oh,
you're
wow.
being a toxic male.
Maybe I have a wedgie. Like
yeah, but I mean, so that would be more female on male. I'm suggesting like things that a man does is on his own.
Well, a man lets women do that though.
So yeah, you could like not, you can be complicit, but sometimes I think I want to not blame women for what men do.
I agree.
I think like it's like if a guy is selfish and has selfish traits and habits, of course the wife or the woman's going to like lose confidence or lose respect for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's going to be resentment, and then it's going to be like, you know what, F you, I can do it myself.
Well, let's
with the neighbor.
let's make it clear right now. That first
That's
and
a couple
foremost,
more steps down the road, but okay.
a real man doesn't spit on a woman's face. A real man raises up a woman on his same level, and
How do you know that?
that's my belief
Come on,
from experience.
You're not
you
married.
have experience.
I'm not married.
But
That's-
you've seen this,
Of course, I've seen it.
or you can reason, you have logic, you have like wisdom to understand that.
I'd say so, and I rationalize that, and I think that totally makes sense, and I see that in the most successful, powerful relationships. That's what happens. I don't think that a real man puts a woman on a lower level than he is.
Define a successful, powerful relationship.
Successful, powerful relationship is a relationship that is
No, like, do you have an example of one?
of an actual
couple.
No, not really.
Because it's hard to say
It's hard,
because if you're looking at what's out there.
I would say obviously not everybody's gonna know this, but like my parents, I think they are a successful relationship. They managed to stay together since they were 17 years old. Obviously, there's going to be the issues like there is in every relationship, but at the end of the day, they have mutual respect for each other and they care about what they say, but they still respect the respective roles of the man and the woman, and I think that creates the best thing possible for any relationship.
So you didn't have to look much further than your upbringing to know how to.
Yeah,
What you thought.
luckily, yes.
I think a lot of what all of us would bring to the table is obviously anecdotal evidence, especially for me